Now, Lagos State has released the operational guidelines for the controlled easing of the COVID-19 induced lockdown. Lagos is Nigeria's epicenter of the outbreak with just over 900 cases, and the government has rolled out a campaign to mask up Lagos.
Following the second phase of the lockdown on Lagos, Ogun and the FCT, and the national address by the President Muhammad Buhari, it is now my duty to share a broader framework for the implementation of the President's directive here in Lagos State. From the hours of 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., we will expect all Lagosians to stay in their homes from the 4th of May 2020. Furthermore, there is a ban on interstate travel by that time. This means that no persons will be allowed in or out of Lagos until further notice, except for those delivering essential goods, services, and by this we mean food items, petroleum products, newspapers and printing materials, and essential manufactured goods. According to Mr. President, the partial controlled interstate movement of goods and services will be allowed for the movement of goods and services from producers to consumers. Lagos State will very strictly implement this directive. As a first step, I'm directing that vehicles carrying food and agricultural produce into Lagos from any part of the country cannot have more than 7 passengers on board. The same applies when these vehicles are leaving the state. We are compelled to issue this directive because we have in recent times seen attempts to conceal people in trucks and other vehicles carrying essential items with the aim of sneaking in and out of the state. I will now go on to share the details of how the presidential directives on the gradual easing of the lockdown of Lagos will be implemented and enforced going forward. Within the public service, our public officers in the entire unified public service from grade 1 to grade 12 will remain and work from home unless otherwise directed by their accounting officer. For all in grades 13 and above, the accounting officer will carry out a need assessment of critical staff, identify their essential office, and draw up a flexible work roster in compliance with social distancing principle. The head of service will provide further details via a circular between now and Monday, 4th of May. None of these directives apply to essential service providers. These are people that are on our front line, which are the fire service and emergency response service. All market stores will be allowed to open from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on selected days. We're working out a schedule with the Market Association and with the Ministry of Local Government to determine which market will work on which day and which other days you will not work. And that will be out before Monday to see the scheduling of the market. But in days where you are allowed to work, you will not work beyond 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And they are meant to observe precautionary measures of social distancing at very high level of personal hygiene and hand hygiene. Malls also will be allowed to open, like I said, with a proviso that they will not have more than 60% occupancy at any given time, the maximum, whilst ensuring that a 2-meter distance is maintained between every person and the next in the store. Hand sanitizers and wash basin must be provided at the entry point, and temperature check must be carried out at each and every of these malls. Eateries and restaurants. Eateries and restaurants will also be allowed to open between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m., but they shall only do takeaways. There will not be permitted any form of in-dining service whatsoever. All food handlers and staff of the eateries are expected to have gone through an extensive health check and must also practice high level of personal hygiene in serving members of the public. Food handlers are also mandated to wear face masks. On our healthcare facility, we will continue to work with our medical establishment and will continue to have high index of suspicion of COVID-19. All suspected cases of COVID-19 must immediately be reported at the state helpline. You know, Lagos continues to be the epicenter of COVID-19 in Nigeria. I have also been on phone with our medical personnel who have contacted the coronavirus over the last week or so. I spoke with all of them, and I'm pleased to say to you that they are all doing well and they are very high spirits. We are looking forward to their discharge very, very soon. Our medical personnel will continue to be our top priority for all of us at this time, and will continue to make available all of the resources they require in terms of hazard allowance, COVID allowance, personal protective equipment. We're giving them psychosocial support and other needs as may arise. We are continuing our active case finding in communities around Lagos State. So far, we have covered over 1.5 million households, and we also continue to scale up isolation and treatment capacity. Isolation center in Bagada should be open tomorrow or latest next tomorrow, and we are currently working on building 3 additional isolation centers. We are encouraging businesses in Lagos to commence the production of face masks as we roll out our new campaign to Mask Up Lagos. This is an opportunity for our people, especially the youth, to display their creativity and their artistic flair. The project and to project the cultural spirit of Lagos and Nigeria to the world. All schools and institutions at primary, secondary, and tertiary levels will continue to remain physically closed. Students are expected to continue learning alternative online and media channels as announced by the various institutions of learning. Religious organizations, all places of worship, be it formal or informal, will remain closed from any form of congregational service or assemblage until further notice. Our Muslim brothers and sisters taking part in the Ramadan fast must observe their meal and prayers within their homes and in line with the pronouncement by the Nigerian Supreme Council of Islamic Affairs that no gathering for the iftar or the sohor or the tarawih or to conduct the tafsir prayers. They are all suspended. All commuters are mandated to wear face masks at all times, to sanitize with alcohol-based sanitizers, and to wash their hands with soap and running waters at every trip. All transport operators and companies are expected to sanitize their vehicles, their parks and garages regularly and continuously, at least before and after every trip. All transport operators and companies are expected to have at the entrances of their respective parks hand washing equipment with running water and temperature reader to test every passenger before boarding. All transport operators are expected to have alcohol-based sanitizers in their vehicles for their drivers, conductors, and their passengers. All motor parks and garages must avoid overcrowding. Social distancing is required for passengers queuing to board any of these buses. All buses should load to a maximum of 60% of their full capacity, meaning that if your capacity is 10 passengers, you cannot load more than 6 at any given time. No standing in all BRT and the Lagos bus service bus operation. All air conditioning systems in the public service, in all these public systems also must be switched off. All operators, drivers, and conductors are also mandated to wear face masks and hand gloves while in transit and to dispose same appropriately. All of these guidelines as outlined, face mask, regular disinfection, hand washing, temperature check, maximum of 60% capacity, shall comply with all transport systems and also water transportation operators. From May 4th, 2020, businesses will be allowed to operate within a framework that is called a controlled easing freeze. So what that means is that we do not want to shut down our entire economy, so we're expected to have a gradual easing of their businesses. It is a gradual and controlled easing of the lockdown. We will continue to monitor with our public situation and will begin to check the economic impacts as always. Companies that choose to operate within this controlled easing environment would operate within the hours of 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. They're also directed to operate at the maximum of 60% of their staff capacity.